Alright guys, I have one good and one bad news for you. Let me start with the bad news. The bad news is that this week there isn't really any exceptional equipment or exceptional character in the crypt. The good news is that this will give you opportunity to just take a break if you have been grinding the crypt way too much for the past couple of weeks. As usual, let's start with the goals. Now, we have Empress Melina, Covered Ops Cassie and Combat Cup Sonia. I would advise you generally to avoid getting either of those. However, if you're in the mood for farm, and if you have to choose out of them, I believe Covered Ops Cassie is the best choice here, because she's super cheap, 5,000 hearts, and for 5,000 hearts you can add a lot of value to your collection. She's amazing at Fusion 0, so if you don't have her, then probably just maybe it is worth getting 5,000 hearts to unlock her, because she's going to add, again, value at Fusion 0. And if you already have her, supposedly she's one of your main fighters, getting an extra fusion will be always beneficial. Combat Cup Sonia Blade, in my opinion, is not worth buying. If you don't have her, then you should consider getting her. But generally speaking, if you already have a copy, then you should avoid getting extra copy from the crypt. You should definitely avoid getting Assassin Jade. She is not really one of the best diamonds, and she doesn't offer almost anything at Fusion 0. The same applies to Circle of Shadow Kitan. You should avoid getting her. And when it comes to Sindel, if you don't have Sindel, and if you're in the mood for a grind, only if you're in the mood for a grind, then I would advise to get one copy of her. You'll be surprised, because Sindel is something like the diamond version of Covered Ops Cassie. Unfortunately, Sindel works for Nether Realm characters. That's not really that many, but still, she can be perfect support for characters such as mkmobile Scorpion, such as Classic Scorpion, and other guys that you might use. Generally, she's quite useful character at low fusion. If you already have her at Fusion 0, Fusion 1, then I wouldn't really advise you to get copies of her, unless, again, you are in the mood for a pretty decent farm. Let's move to the equipment. In my opinion, you should get a copy of the Storm Hat, because at Fusion 10 it is one of the very best rare armors in the game, because of the power generation boost. And trust me, this is super important in many situations, and it is quite cheap, only 600 health. When it comes to a Divine Tornadic Pauldron, I'm not really a fan, to be honest with you. You get strength enough to use critical hit to little damage and 15% critical hit chance. This is not incredible, but still 3,400, it isn't really that expensive, so I would advise you to consider getting also the Divine Tornadic Pauldron, but even if you don't get a copy of it, it's not a big deal. And the last piece is the Epic Armor, Famous Fashion Dominator, 35% max health boost and 40% chance to apply blind to an opponent for using special attack against the user. The first two effects are not really incredible. Let's be real, the 40% chance to apply blind after the enemy uses special attack is designed specifically so that this gear can be super annoying if equipped on bosses. The general case, you don't want the enemies to do special attacks on you. Still though, this armor is going to give your Johnny Cage 25% power generation boost, which is quite useful. Generally, I would advise you to consider getting this piece. It is not bad at all, but I wouldn't say it is incredible. For instance, you can get the Storm Hat is going to give you 20% power generation boost. This one is going to give you just one character 25. It is totally up to you whether to grind a lot so you can get this 5% extra power. And don't forget that the max health boost is useful, but the second effect is generally designed to be annoying on bosses. So if I have to summarize the characters, you should consider getting Covered Ops Cassie Cage, and you should consider getting MK11 Sindel. If you don't have them at all, if you do have a copy of MK11 Sindel, you should, let's say, avoid getting her, because, I mean, they're better diamonds, and generally speaking, there are better ways to spend your hearts. When it comes to the equipment, you should consider getting the Famous Fashion Dominator. It is a decent piece for Johnny Cage. Also, you should shortlist the Storm Hat. It is super cheap if you don't have it maxed out. It is one of the most useful armors in the game at Fusion 10. Alright guys, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, consider subscribing to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and have an amazing rest of your day. Take care, guys.
Perfect.